Everyone working at Salem Hospital should be prepared to handle a number of potential emergencies. In case of a fire emergency, you must act quickly to ensure the safety of patients, visitors, and staff. This video will review the components of fire prevention, fire safety plan at Salem Hospital, and what to do during a fire.
The most effective fire safety plan starts first with fire prevention.
First, enforce the no smoking policy. This is the most important precaution because smoking causes half of all fires in healthcare facilities.
Ms. Williams, I'm sorry, Salem Hospital is a non-smoking facility. You won't be able to smoke while you're here. I'll need to take those for you.
Don't misuse extension cords. Damaged or overloaded cords can become hot and start fires. Use good quality cords approved by Salem Hospital.
Mrs. Williams, you cannot smoke when you're on oxygen therapy. It's very dangerous. Do you have any other cigarettes or matches that I need to know about? Okay, well, I need to take these from you.
Keep flammable liquids and oxygen away from ignition sources. Remember, in the presence of oxygen, almost any material can burn furiously, and don't allow trash to pile up. It makes an ideal place for fires to start. If necessary, call for a special trash pickup.
Hi, could I order a special trash pickup on 5 Center, please? Thanks.
Okay. Finally, report and correct fire hazards you find. Fire prevention is an important part of your job. There are 2 hazards associated with fires. First, fire can double in size every 2 minutes. Therefore, a rapid response is imperative. Second, fires produce deadly gases and smoke. Smoke kills and injures many more people than heat or flames. Some of these gases irritate the eyes, causing severe pain, intense tearing, and even blindness. If you discover a fire, it's difficult to remember what to do, and every second counts.
Jerry, do you smell smoke? Oh, no, Mrs. Williams.
RACE is an acronym to remind you what to do. R stands for rescue. If you see a fire near a patient, rescue the patient.
Jerry, call code 5 in room 5214. I'm going to go in and get the patient out.
But look before you enter the room. If you must go in, tell a coworker what you're doing. Then stay low, below the smoke. But don't delay sounding the alarm. Fortunately, fires in hospitals are usually small when discovered. It is frequently easy to rescue the patient from the fire room while your coworker sounds the alarm. A stands for alarm. If you discover a fire, call out code 5. Do not yell fire. If you hear someone yell code 5, pull the manual alarm if it hasn't already been activated. Place a code 5 call to the switchboard. Dial 77, state code 5, the location such as 5 Center, room 5214, and the type of fire.
Priority page, code 5, 5 Center, room 5214. Priority page, code 5, room 5214.
C stands for confine. Confine the fire by closing all patient and utility doors and windows. This should be done on all floors during a code 5, even if it isn't in your department. E stands for extinguish. Extinguish the fire if possible, but only if the fire is small and you have been trained in the use of fire extinguishers. Usually you won't have to do this because the Salem Hospital Fire Brigade or trained firefighters will arrive quickly. So if you discover a fire, remember RACE. Rescue, but only persons in immediate danger. Alarm. Pull the manual alarm. Call code 5, dial 77, and warn those nearby. Confine. Close all doors to confine smoke and fire, and extinguish, but only if the fire is small and you're trained. Salem Hospital has an evacuation plan that is posted in each department. Be sure you know where it is posted and what it directs you to do. Also, know the location of all oxygen shutoff valves in your department. Remember, a small fire can become a big fire fast, so it's important you know what to do and act quickly.
Does everybody know what time it is?
Good evening, and welcome to Bite Time. I'm your host, Vince, the Vampire Tailor, and you all know my assistant, Igor.
That's Igor.
Oh, Igor, sorry. You know, we have a very special show for you today about one of my favorite subjects, blood. Why, in the last 100 years, things have changed so much. When I was a boy, you could bite with abandon. In fact, you know, it was we vampires who invented the term necking. Little trivia there for you audience people. But nowadays, with so many diseases, you don't know who's who or what's what, and you can't tell who's diseased by just looking at them. It's enough, frankly, to keep a vampire up all day. So, we've invited a very special guest to Bite Time today, and I'd like a big welcome, please, for Pat Mason, infection control nurse from Salem Hospital. Igor, stop that. You know the rules. No biting the guests.
Igor.
I'm sorry again, my friend Igor. Igor. Pat, please sit down, won't you?
Thank you, Vince.
We're so happy to have you here. We'd like to try to find out some information, if we could, about ways that we could keep from unwittingly infecting ourselves from other people.
Good plan, good plan.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you agree. Could you tell us, please, some about your work at the hospital in infection control and how it is exactly you help people from transmitting disease from person to person?
Okay, thank you. First off, it is important that we protect our patients from infections, and then the second choice would be protecting our staff from infections also.
Oh, really?
And so primarily what we're talking about today will be about that, about the staff protection. And so I want to talk about that, but
Okay.
then the patient also unwittingly benefits from that also.
I see. I see. It looks like you brought a lot of things with yourself today. Do these have some bearing on what you're talking about?
Oh, yes, and we're going to talk about the exposure control plan,
Okay.
and with that exposure control plan, we have several devices to help people protect themselves, and I'm going to show and talk about several of those. Would you like me to start right now?
Please, I'm most interested in exposure control. It sounds like a fascinating topic.
Okay, first off, we have the exposure control plan designed to protect people from contact with blood, and the primary focus on that has been the gloves. And we want everybody at Salem Hospital to know that we have all sizes of gloves, and from the very small to the normal size. And so we want everybody to know we accommodate.
Pat, you can't tell me if you have employees whose hands are that small.
No, we have child labor laws in Oregon, but someday we may have the use of these. Who knows?
Okay. Now, is this exposure control plan you're doing, or, I mean, did you make this up yourself, or how does this work?
No, this was designed by actually between CDC and OSHA, the two agencies that put together guidelines for this kind of information. And the protection is for everybody who has contact in the health care field. It's actually your field also. This might be something you might want to look into.
Well, I dabble a little bit in blood, but I don't know if this is appropriate to me or not. I'm not sure. What other devices are there besides gloves? I mean, I certainly could wear gloves if that's all that was required.
Mm-hmm. We have gowns, and we have a disposable semi-permeable gown that we use, and we will have that demonstrated here
Yes,
by
my lovely assistant, Igor.
or Igor, wherever it is.
Oh, yes, Igor, thank you. Sorry.
The gown is a semi-permeable, protects the arms and the front of the person doing any kind of procedure that potentially would splash onto their clothing.
I see.
I believe it is important that we protect the clothing because we believe that sometimes there is a quantity enough that could go through and actually come in contact with the skin underneath.
Oh.
The arms are most often the place this splashes on. However, we've had some splashes on the front. So the gown is a throwaway gown, should be disposed of when you're finished with, and it makes it very simple then.
I see. Well, you know, most of my exposure seems to be on my face. Do you have something to protect the face from blood?
Yes, we have masks of a variety of design. Number one is actually a barrier mask, which actually has a barrier in the middle, and the mask keeps fluid from going on through to back to the face.
I see.
This is a regular surgical mask, and a cone-shaped mask sometimes is more comfortable for some people. We also have eye protection.
Oh, eyes too. Eyes are important.
Oh, yes. And we have a variety of goggles, and we have also some masks that are connected to the shields. We have a variety of different shields.
Oh, very
The
nice.
person should make known to their boss what kind of protection they need, because they can buy several different or get several different varieties of these kind of protections.
I see.
Depends on the job they're doing.
So it sounds to me like this exposure control plan is sort of a mutual responsibility amongst the employee and the employer, so that the employee must watch out for themselves and the employer will do what they can to provide the equipment to help the employee do that. Is that the...
Very good observation. Yes, that's very correct. This is a dual
I
responsibility,
see.
and both have parts in this. The employee must make known to the employer what the needs be, and the employer must provide these in places that are convenient to their work and close to where they might have contact.
I see. That's very nice. Very nice. Now, you know, Pat, we read in all the papers about this disease, AIDS, I believe you call it. And is it very dangerous, and how prevalent is it? And will these devices protect one from that sort of disease?
Actually, these guidelines were designed for that disease, for
I see.
AIDS. HIV, the virus that transmits AIDS, or causes AIDS, is the virus we're trying to protect people from. It is mostly contained in blood, and so that's what our primary focus in the healthcare field is.
Blood.
And hepatitis B is the other one. Hepatitis B actually has been a problem.
Clumsy.
Hepatitis B has been a problem from the beginning, probably 20 or 30 years ago. But HIV or AIDS became the big focus when these guidelines were designed.
I see. And is there nothing a person can do to protect themselves from hepatitis beyond the gloves and the goggles and things like that? Are there other means of protecting oneself?
Yes, we have an immunization available in the Employee Health Service
I see.
for hepatitis B. I recommend it for all our employee health workers. Actually, I would recommend it for you also. I believe you might take advantage of that.
Does that involve needles?
Oh, yes.
Oh, no, I don't do needles. Oh, it's most frightening. And is that very expensive, in case some of my audience might want to buy some more?
Our employees are given that free of charge.
I
The
see.
guidelines say they must have that provided to them by their employer.
Free is a
And-
very good price.
Yes, it is. It is a bargain.
I see that my lovely assistant Igor is busy washing. What is this you're doing, and what is she illustrating here that's so important?
The most protective thing that we do in the healthcare field is hand washing. And hand washing is a simple, basic procedure with water, soap, friction, rubbing your hands together or rubbing the hand.
Careful with that water, you know that burns my skin.
And so this is an important protective measure, as important as anything that we do in the hospital, in the healthcare field. And so we know
I see.
that people need to make that an automatic practice in any kind of contact with a patient before they eat, coffee breaks, and things like that.
So you would say that probably good hand washing would be the cornerstone of our defense against disease?
Yes, absolutely.
see.
I think that's a good way to present that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the compliment. Now, you brought some other things with you. I see you brought some written material there that looks an inducing color of red. Reminds me of blood.
Yes, we have a couple pamphlets that talk about universal precautions, which is what we're talking about here,
I see.
which is, by the way, going to be named standard precautions because the new guidelines have come out and that's the term they're using. They want this to become a standard practice, and that's the wording for that.
Okay.
Then the other one is about bloodborne pathogens. This has been a pamphlet that has been very instructive and covers the material that you and I are talking about right now.
So
You may have this when I'm finished.
Thank you very much. If a person needed more information, they can read those pamphlets. And are you available to talk to groups of employees who might have concerns about
Yes, we are. The nurses in the infection control department are there 5 days a week on the evenings, weekends, and nights.
you'll come to our time. You know, we mostly are night workers. And
Supervisors in the emergency room are available also to answer questions and be involved
I
in
see.
any kind of inquiry you might have. They can answer any question we can answer.
I see. Okay. And what is that, the large plastic thing that you had there? That looked most interesting to me. What is
Yes,
that?
we are required to dispose of sharps in a safe manner. And this is a puncture-proof container which is marked with a warning. If it is not red, it is white, and then it still must contain the label that's here. We use this to dispose of any kind of sharp, including scalpels. We might use this to, and you can see it automatically dumps. It has a nice automatic dumper.
It's a needle. Look out, it's a needle.
It is still covered, so I will leave it covered. Setting the syringe right on this allows this to dump automatically by itself.
Isn't that cute?
It is a very good safety device and keeps people from putting their hands into this, plus dumps of sharp, very close to where people work. This is where we want these placed.
I see.
They have a handle, and they are very handy to take with you when you need to move them closer to your work.
Oh, so you could take one on vacation. If
Yes.
You wanted to. Now, Pat, I have a personal question for you. I frequently get blood on my capes, and I'm finding it increasingly difficult to cleanse them appropriately. Obviously, you have a lot of linen in the hospital. How is that handled, and what do you do with bandages and things like that?
Well, good question, because,
Thank you.
of course, the bandages are thrown away. That is a part of the trash. We have what we call regular trash and infectious waste. And infectious waste is any product that would be contaminated with a large quantity of blood. Or body secretions or anything like that. And this means enough that they could squeeze out the contents of that, whatever's in that.
I see.
So that would be called infectious waste. It is put into a red bag, and we have red bags, a variety of colors and sizes.
That's a nice color, red.
Excuse me, it's a variety of sizes, not colors, because it is red. And this is meant to be handled and put, this can be taken to the bedside, anything can be put into that. Plus, we might use that for any kind of container that contains a lot of the patient's secretions. And then this is handled on the unit, not sent down to in the chute. And I think that's a really important factor. We need to have
garbage separate then. So
yes, and
very good, very good.
I think you're making plenty of noise there.
And is the linen handled separately too, or is it all pretty much the same?
The linen is also considered contaminated, and so it's put into a variety of color of bags depending on the department, because some departments must have their linen washed separately.
I see.
Such as baby linen must not be washed with the mops of the hospital. So there's reasons for color coding that.
Nice touch.
We also have a semi-permeable regular laundry bag, and you'll see those on the floor. They're cloth, and they handle a good quantity. They need to be closed at the top, just like your red bag needs to be closed at the top and sent down when you're sending laundry down the chute.
I see. I see. Well, Pat, you've given me so much information. Is there something more that you wanted to add that would help us feel safer in our business that we do day in and day out?
Well, I think the most important thing to keep in mind is that all these are very reasonable. They're very manageable policies. You can have the equipment handy, take advantage of it, anticipate what you're doing, be aware of the risk that you may be involved with. Tubing has been a problem recently with tubing slips and may splash onto your face, so things like that are a concern. So anticipating and being aware, and the bottom line is hand washing still is the most important thing.
I see.
If you have an injury, that should be reported to Employee Health, and Employee Health will then follow through with the patient, and we would then follow through and do some counseling with the employee. So that's the important part about that.
I see. It sounds like a full-service deal. Then you sort of take care of all ends. And, well, that's very nice. The Salem Hospital is very lucky to have someone with your caliber.
Thank you.
You know, I know that I personally will feel a lot safer going out at night with this extra information, and I really want to thank you for taking the time to helping educate our audience in this most important and very serious subject. And I thank you very much, and hope you'll come and see us again sometime as things change, and keep us updated. And we look forward to talking to you in the future. And let's have a nice big bite time. Thank you for Pat Mason.
Thank you. I appreciate this.
Igor, would you show Pat out, please? Igor, I can't keep it straight. I can't keep it straight. I can't help it. It's not my name. I don't know this one.
Everyday people are exposed to hazardous materials in the workplace, and those of us working in a hospital are no exception. Hazard agents are identified as materials which pose a physical or health risk to humans. In 1983, OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, adopted hazardous communication standards and employee right-to-know legislation. The rules adopted directly address the issue of preventing health risks to employees and establishes a national coherent health hazard information system. Hazardous materials must be evaluated by the manufacturer, and this hazard determination information passed on to the employer through the use of material safety data sheets, MSDS, and proper labeling of containers. The MSDS sheet provides the employer and employee with valuable information regarding the individual substance. MSDS sheets include 1. Identity of a chemical presenting a physical or health hazard. 2. The physical and chemical characteristics such as flash point, solubility, and vapor pressure of a chemical. 3. The physical hazards such as reactivity, explosibility, and fire potential. 4. Health hazards including signs and symptoms of illness and medical conditions which might be aggravated by exposure. 5. The primary routes of entry of the chemical into the body. 6. The permissible exposure limits. 7. If the chemical is listed as a carcinogen. 8. The precautions necessary for safe use. 9. The known control measures such as protective equipment. 10. Emergency and first aid procedures. 11. The date of preparation of the MSDS or date of last change of content. 12. The name, address, and phone numbers of the person responsible for the MSDS. Containers are to be labeled with the content, identity, appropriate hazard warnings, name and address of the manufacturers or responsible party. In the workplace, both the original and secondary containers must be labeled or otherwise identified as to content and appropriate hazard warnings. The hazard communication rules require the employers provide a comprehensive written communication program and the training be provided to workers exposed to hazardous chemicals. At Salem Hospital, this hazard communication standard information is contained in the Hazard Communication Notebook, which is readily accessible in each department and nursing unit. Employee training and information should include an overview of the requirements contained in the hazard communication rules, chemicals present in their workplaces, location and availability of our written hazard program, physical and health effects of the hazardous chemicals, methods and observation techniques used to determine presence or release of hazardous chemicals into the work areas, how to lessen or prevent exposure of these hazardous chemicals through usage of work practices and personal protection equipment, steps the hospital has taken to lessen or prevent exposure to these chemicals, safety emergency procedures to follow if they are exposed to these chemicals, how to read labels and review MSDSs to obtain appropriate hazard information. After attending the training class, each employee signs a form to verify that they attended the training. This form is then placed in the Hazard Communication Notebook in your department. Finally, as employees of the hospital, we have a responsibility to be informed, use the training provided to us, take precautions to protect ourselves and others by using protective equipment provided by our employer, and know what to do and who to notify in case of a spill exposure.
This is the hospital. I work here. My name's Monday. I'm a nurse. Wednesday, March 21st. I'm working the day shift. I was assigned to education. My partner, Nurse Jones. We got word the boss wanted to see us. We gulped down the last of our 2-shift-old coffee and went into her office. Yes, ma'am?
Monday, have you heard of the Safe Medical Device Act?
No, ma'am.
Well, it's a federal law. It came into effect November of 1991. It seems that we need to let our staff know what it's about and how it impacts them.
Yes, ma'am.
Under this act, a reportable incident is one that has the potential to cause serious injury or illness or even death with a patient or a staff. And I think I'm going to assign you and Jones to it. Do you think you can handle it?
Yes, ma'am.
I got a call from Ms. Sheldrake downstairs, and she claims to know all the details. Why don't you give her a call, and good luck.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, by the way,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Sheldrake takes this act pretty seriously.
How's that?
She keeps her pants insulated.
9:18 a.m. We paid a visit to Miss Sheldrake.
I knew when the act was passed that we had to educate our staff, so I sent the word along. I knew I wasn't a teacher, so I told them that they'd have to find someone else. It's not my fault.
We understand, ma'am. We're just here to get the facts.
Well, I knew all along that there had to be a policy on these devices. I mean, the vast majority of the time they do a great job. We couldn't practice medicine without them. But once in a while, well, there can be a problem.
Uh-huh.
Ms. Sheldrake, what step does an employee take if there is an incident? Well, the most important thing is to attend to the patient. That's number one.
Yes, ma'am.
Then, of course, the incident needs to be reported.
Mm-hmm.
Then the device or devices must be removed from service. Of course, all materials from any disposables or packaging must be saved too.
Anything else?
An MDR. They have to fill out a faulty medical devices report.
So, if a reportable incident that contributes to the death, serious injury, or serious illness of a patient or employee occurs, the employee needs to first attend to the needs of the patient, report the incident, remove the device or devices from service, saving all materials, including disposables, packaging, and then fill out a medical device report. Is that about it?
Yes, I think that covers the basics. Oh, there is one more thing.
Yes, ma'am.
They think I'm a little odd, you know, but there is one thing that everyone should do. I tried to get them to put it in the act, but they just wouldn't listen to me.
What's that, ma'am?
Everyone should insulate their pants.
(10:14 a.m.) Jones and I were back at the office drinking our 3-shift-old coffee. We got a call from Nurse Ratchet in surgery. Seems there'd been an incident with the cautery machine. Sounded as if it might be an MDR case. We went over to OR to investigate.
We were in the operating room, and the patient was draped, and the operation had started.
Yes, sir. Tell us what happened, and just the facts, please.
This Carter isn't working right. Can you turn the settings up?
Okay. I've increased the settings. How's it now?
No change. Can you turn it up some more?
Let me check the ground path. It seems to be okay. Let me go get another machine. Now, how about trying a new Bovie first?
All right.
Suffering succotash. Jeez, oh, darn it. Captain Billy's whiz bag, it's not working.
Let me change the machine. Okay, try it now.
It's working great. What in tarnation was wrong with that other machine?
I don't know. I'll fill out a medical device, a faulty medical device form, and include the original Bovie with it, give it to the biomed tech, and he'll see what he can find out.
Good.
So you filled out the safe medical devices form and sent the cautery machine down to biomed to be checked?
That's right. We took the machine out of the room, and filled out the safe medical device form, gave both to the equipment tech, and he took them down to biomed.
Everything go all right for the patient?
After that, everything went just fine.
Sounds like you folks handled it just great. Jones and I will see you later.
There's just one other thing that's bothering me.
What's that?
What do you suppose was in Captain Billy's whiz bag?
11:17 a.m. I was guzzling my 4-shift-old coffee while Nurse Jones was running a background check on Captain Billy. 11:21 a.m. We got a call from the intensive care unit. The nurse manager was reporting a ventilator problem. It was MDR time, again.
It was a close call. I got a page about 30 minutes ago.
Just exactly what happened.
Elaine, what happened? Well, I was going by the room and I heard the ventilator alarm. I came in the room and the ventilator wasn't working and the patient was looking cyanotic.
So what'd you do then?
Well, we took her off the vent and we're bagging her with 100% oxygen. The respiratory therapist is bringing us a new ventilator.
So everything back to normal?
Well, she looks pretty good. We're getting a set of blood gases stat and we're going to call the results to the doctor.
Sounds like a good plan.
Just the facts, ma'am. What happened to the ventilator?
The staff nurse tagged it and then sent it on to Biomed. She's filled out a medical device, a faulty medical devices report. She'll also fill out a report to be reviewed by quality review.
So your staff is familiar with the policy for reporting faulty medical devices?
Yes, we just reviewed the policy. Medical devices consist of almost anything used in patient care or diagnosis except for drugs. We talked about what to do if an incident occurs. First, attend to the patient, then fill out the faulty medical device report and remove the device from service. Then we're to keep all the packaging, materials disposable and this kind of thing.
Thanks. I'm going to report your good work to Miss Sheldrake and the boss. Most of our machines do nothing but good for our patients. We'll make sure these bad apples stay out of circulation until they're ready to perform in a proper manner.
New admit for me or someone named Captain Billy?
Better check his whiz bag.
At 3:13 p.m., the Bovie and ventilator were taken into custody. The Biomed department sent them back to their factories. They will be inspected and repaired before returning to the hospital. The story you have just seen is true. Mr. Sheldrake's name has been changed to protect the insulation in his pants.
Electricity is a part of our everyday lives, in our weather and in our homes, as we turn on a light switch or drop a Pop-Tart into a toaster. Electricity is also a part of all of our jobs, whether we work in the kitchen, in an office setting, or with patients. While we're all aware of the many good things electricity does for us every day, we must also be constantly alert to its potential danger. Here at Salem Hospital, many of the diagnostic, monitoring, and life support devices we use are powered by electricity. We must keep in mind that this is a potential occupational hazard as well as a potential for patient injury. This video will cover a basic explanation of principles of electricity, interventions that limit potential electrical shock, assessment techniques of equipment, and review the correct procedure for reporting potentially defective equipment. Electricity is generated at a local power plant and transmitted to substations along a network of power lines. From the substation, the electrical current is sent to homes and businesses throughout the community. Electrical current is the continual flow of electrons along a conductive path. Ideally, all current is completely contained within the line or circuit. However, some current may leak into the frame of a device. To prevent potential danger from this stray current, the ground line, which we know to be the round plug in the electrical cord and outlet, prevent accidental shock by removing this strayed current. A flaw or leak in the ground may increase the risk of electrical shock. The Federal Drug Administration attributes 1,600 injuries and 100 deaths annually to faulty electrical equipment.
Well, usually the human body is a fairly high resistance to the flow of current or electricity on the body, but if there's moisture on the body or cuts or abrasions or internal catheters or leads attached to the patient, it gives an entry point for electricity for a shock.
The physiologic effects of electrical current exposure vary depending on the intensity, and the effects can be varied from very minimal tingling in the fingers from a small current up to electrical burns or even cardiac arrest. One thing that can happen if there's a prolonged exposure to direct current is that the muscles become tetanic and the patient will grip the current source and be unable to let go, and this could further potentiate the injury. So these are examples of macro shocks, macro shock being an electrical exposure of sufficient intensity to be perceived by the patient as some form of a shock. Now, if you were to come across a patient receiving an ongoing shock, the rescuer could be at risk by touching that patient, so it's extremely important not to come in direct contact with the patient. The appropriate approach would be to identify and disconnect the electrical source as quickly as possible. Now, another form of electrical exposures would be a microshock, and this is a level of exposure that is of low enough intensity that is generally not perceived by the patient. But there can be small currents that would flow across the skin from electrical sources and could be potentially transmitted to a vulnerable structure such as the heart by an invasive line or an electrode. So patients who would be at risk for such a problem would be, for instance, a patient with a pacemaker, a temporary pacemaker or other cardiac electrode, a central venous line. These patients would be at potentially increased risk. Fortunately, microshock injury is quite rare. Modern electronic equipment is well grounded and has a lot of safety features, but there is some potential risk, and these risks can be minimized if people caring for the patient have appropriate awareness. Certainly, if there is an exposed electrode that could be a source of risk for the patient, they should be covered, such as with a glove or other insulating material, taped down so that it's not inadvertently exposed to a non-grounded power source. Caregivers who are working with these patients, if they have occasion to work with these electrodes, should be wearing insulating gloves, such as latex gloves, to avoid maybe passing static electricity charges to the patient.
Healthcare providers can enhance patient safety by planning and implementing a few steps to provide electrical safety. First, look at the outlet. Make sure it's free of any cracks or breaks. Then insert the plug. Make sure the plug is tight. A loose plug can cause overheating, which can cause a fire. If you do notice any cracks or defects in the outlet, tag it with an out of order tag and call maintenance immediately. Second, look at the plug-in. Make sure it's free of any cracks or breaks. Check the ground prong. Make sure it's tight. Never use a 3 to a 2-prong plug adapter, and never use a cord if the ground prong's broken off. That will cause or pose an electrical hazard to the patient and to yourself. And to avoid a potential arc, make sure the equipment is turned off before plugging and unplugging. Firmly grasp the plug, not the cord, when you're unplugging. Third, inspect the cord. Make sure that the cord is firmly and securely attached to the equipment. Make sure that there's no exposed wires or cracks in the cord along the cord path. If any of these are found, tag it right away out of order and report it to maintenance.
To reduce the chance for electrical shock on a piece of equipment, it's important not to place anything liquid or damp on top of or inside of a piece of equipment. The water is an excellent conductor of electricity and can cause short circuits inside the piece of equipment. If a piece of equipment is dropped, it should be immediately removed from service, an out-of-order tag put on it, and contact clinical engineering. Even though you can't see a problem with the equipment, it doesn't look like it's damaged. It could be internally. If you have an electrical outage in the hospital does have red outlets throughout the hospital that are on emergency power generators, which will come on and be active within 10 seconds of the power outage. All equipment that is critical care type patient equipment should always be plugged into the red outlets. If the power goes out and there is a hesitation when the power returns, all the equipment should be checked to make sure that it returned to the settings that it originally was set at.
Electrical safety is a responsibility of all employees at Salem Hospital. Each of us is responsible for using electrical equipment as intended and with good safety considerations. For more information on electrical safety, refer to the electrical section in the safety manual. Read the operator manual and be familiar with all equipment you use.
Salem Hospital, another routine day. It is hard to imagine that at any moment these scenes could change to ones of confusion and chaos. Disasters such as earthquakes, explosions, and large-scale accidents do occur and are by their very nature unpredictable. Spring break, 1993. An early morning earthquake jolted the mid-Willamette Valley. Although there were no significant injuries and little structural damage, it was a reminder that a larger trembler could have triggered a disaster. Would you know what to do? Salem Hospital has dealt with disasters other than earthquakes. In December 1964, the Willamette River flooded. 7,000 Kaiser residents were forced to flee their homes. 17,000 people in Oregon and Washington were left homeless. 47 people lost their lives in the flood. Salem Hospital had to evacuate over 100 patients. In 1981, a lone gunman opened fire in the Oregon Museum Tavern. 2 patrons were killed and 26 others wounded. Salem Hospital's emergency room admitted many of the wounded that night, and the entire hospital united to care for them along with their families and friends.
So this one we're shipping to ICU. We've got a CT ordered on him and labs drawn. Do you want to need to check?
Salem Hospital is an integral part of a community-wide emergency preparedness network. Disaster drills are held 2 times a year to evaluate the system and make changes in the protocol. As an employee of Salem Hospital, you need to know your responsibilities in a disaster. You must ensure that the hospital provides prompt, efficient medical care and that the hospital operates in the safest environment possible. Disasters are classified as either external or internal. An external disaster is activated by the senior emergency room physician on duty. If the staff on duty is not adequate to respond to an emergency situation, the physician will dial 77 and tell the switchboard to announce a code D on the overhead paging system.
It's Doctor here. I'd like to activate a code D to the emergency department, please.
The switchboard will continue to announce the code D overhead every 15 minutes until a disaster is canceled. The switchboard will also notify other branches of the hospital, including SHAPES, the Rehab Center, the Psychiatric Unit, and Home Health. The Safety Program Notebook in your area provides both general information and staff responsibilities during a disaster. The plan includes a chart which lists service and treatment areas. The location, function, and staffing for each area is described. An example of a service area is the staffing personnel pool located on 1 South. Their function is to assign and reassign personnel as needed to cover the treatment areas.
An example of a treatment area is surgical holding. It is located in PACU and uses their staff along with an anesthesiologist and the AM admit staff. Its function during a disaster is pre-op care and to provide the hospital with a secondary triage. Identify your department's functions and responsibilities as outlined in the Disaster Plan Resource Book. On-duty personnel should immediately report to their supervisors for assignments. Off-duty personnel should wait for telephone notification before reporting to work. If called, off-duty personnel should report to the personnel pool located on 1 South. If not called, off-duty employees should come to work at their normal time. Do not call the hospital. This ties up phone lines which may be damaged or needed for emergencies. There is a disaster kit in your area. It includes flashlights and extra batteries, call-in lists with staff phone numbers, status reports, and other materials used during a disaster. It is your responsibility to know what is expected in your department. Each disaster kit is customized for your area.
Yes, this is Dennis Noonan, and I'd like to activate the internal disaster plan, please. Right, okay. Bob, I want you to head up to Portland.
An internal disaster is activated by the hospital president whenever an event occurs within the facility which may cause an actual or potentially unsafe environment for patients, staff, or visitors. An example of an internal disaster would be an electrical outage. It is quite possible that a disaster will disrupt electrical power from outside the hospital. If electrical power is lost, the hospital emergency generators will begin providing power to critical areas within 10 seconds. You need to know where the flashlights and other available light sources are kept in your area. You should know where the extra batteries are located. Outlets that are provided with emergency generator power are red. Vital electrical equipment, such as ventilators, should be plugged into these red outlets. Your department has an internal disaster protocol outlined in the Disaster Plan resource. You need to know where it is located and familiarize yourself with the protocol for your area. Water is another vital hospital resource that may be affected by a disaster. If the water supply in your area is disrupted, make sure that maintenance is aware of it. Start conserving water by discontinuing unnecessary water use. For example, laundry operations should be suspended.
Singing in the rain, and it's singing in the rain. What a glorious day, be again.
No baths or showers should be taken.
Rain.
You will still need to keep your hands clean. Use alternative hand washing methods such as waterless soap. New gloves can be worn for each patient if it is impossible to find other ways to clean your hands. Be sure that all sources of drinking water are labeled as contaminated.
Young man, there's no need to feel down. I said, young man, pick yourself off the ground. I said, young man.
The maintenance department will provide safe drinking water for the patients and staff. Be sure both maintenance and environmental services are aware of any disruption of sewer service in your area. Whenever possible, bedside commodes will be used for patient care. Use plastic bags to line the containers. If bedside commodes are not available, plastic bags should be placed over toilet seats in all bathrooms. Seal them shut when the patient is through using the commode. Environmental services will pick up the sealed liners and move them to an infectious waste holding area. Some units in the hospital have gas control panels. In the event of a medical gas failure, an alarm will sound indicating one or more of the gas delivery systems has been affected. In the event that the oxygen supply fails, notify maintenance and contact special procedures. They will provide portable oxygen tanks for patients who need it. Make sure maintenance is notified if the nitrous oxide or compressed air systems fail. Meanwhile, use portable nitrous or compressed air tanks for surgical procedures. Most ventilators used in Salem Hospital have automatic backup compressors. If you are treating a patient on a ventilator that does not have this feature, ventilate the patient manually and call respiratory care for assistance. In the event of a telephone outage, you will need to determine if just one or all of the phones in your area are out of order. If all the phones are not working, send a runner to another unit to see if its phones are in service. If they are, call the switchboard and notify them of the outage in your unit. If the other unit's phones are also out of order, the runner should go to the switchboard and let them know about the outage. The switchboard will notify staff about the status of telephones by an overhead page and a computer message. There will be a power failure phone in your department. It can be identified by its red sticker. Telephone outage protocol requires assigning a person to monitor this phone. Incoming calls will be randomly directed to power failure phones. Let the caller know about the phone problem and take a message on a phone log. It will be important for you to prioritize messages and notify the proper unit through the use of a runner. You should make outgoing calls only in the event of an emergency. To activate the power failure phone, press the button on the side of the phone for 1 second. You should then hear a dial tone. Dial the outside number directly. Keep in mind that payphones you have access to may be operational.
Your attention, please. The paging system is temporarily out of service. For emergency pages, please call the switchboard.
In the event the radio page system fails, the switchboard will make an overhead announcement. The switchboard will then make overhead announcements for emergency and urgent pages. If the overhead paging system is not operational, you will receive this announcement on your computer terminal.
This is Dr. Hare. Please cancel code D.
Take the time to review the disaster plan for your specific area. Know where to report and what your responsibilities will be.
Pizza's here.
Then you will be better prepared to handle any disaster that may arise in your hospital.
Sandy, I hope you have a good evening. It was a long day today.
Thanks. You too, Debbie. See you tomorrow.
Okay, see you tomorrow. Oh, now I have a parking ticket. I wonder what I did. Yeah, let me see. Oh, brother.
You know, sometimes I think that's all security does around here is give out parking tickets.
Yeah, I think they spend their whole day giving out parking tickets.
Pretty much.
I'll have to take care of this.
Salem Hospital Security provides a wide range of service to patients, visitors, and staff. During 1995 alone, security officers responded to over 13,000 requests for services. Some of these include over 3,800 escorts or transports for staff, over 2,500 requests to unlock doors, almost 1,400 pharmacy transfers to rehab, over 600 confused, combative, or potentially dangerous people seen in the emergency room. And this is just a small sampling of the services provided by the hospital security staff. Security staff are on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and provide service to all hospital locations, including urgency care, psychiatric, the rehab site, Shapes, Capitol View, and, of course, to the big house. While security staff respond to thousands of service requests each year, it is the responsibility of each and every one of us to help. by providing for a functional and safe environment for our patients and visitors and for each other. Security can't be everywhere all the time, so it is up to us to help protect our belongings and those of our patients, equipment, supplies, and each other. The entire hospital community must work together to prevent crime and keep the hospital a safe place to work and receive treatment. First, all patients, staff, including physicians, students, and vendors, are required to wear identification. This is a very easy, quick, and sensitive method of identifying people.
Hey, Jerry, what's up?
I don't know. Who is that?
Who?
Oh, that guy. I've never seen him before.
I don't know, but he's kind of cute, don't you think?
That's what I was worried about. I don't know.
Why are you so worried? He looked fine to me. He's got a lab coat on. I saw a name badge. I'm sure he's fine. You're just overly suspicious.
Well,
don't worry about it.
I'd rather be safe.
Go back to what you're doing there. Don't worry about it.
Don't be fooled by someone's attire. A lab coat, scrubs, or even a stethoscope are easy to obtain. If someone is in an area that you are unsure if they really should be there, ask if you can help. If you still feel uneasy with the situation, notify security. Be extra careful of our staff ID badges. In the wrong hands, it could be utilized for access to a restricted area.
Yes, this is Jerry. I'm up on the mother-baby unit. I'd like to report somebody that I'm suspicious of. I don't think I've ever seen him up here before.
For security assistance,
Okay.
dial
See you in a
extension
minute.
5300 or use the appropriate pager number for your area. If security is needed immediately, dial 77 and state location and type of problem. A code A is called when assistance is needed to restrain or control a patient, visitor, or staff from injuring themselves or others. If you need security immediately but need discretion, without alarming or upsetting the individual causing the problem, then again dial 77 but ask for Mr. Sebastian to respond. Give location to the operator. Security will respond in the same urgent manner as a code A, but will arrive discreetly so as to not agitate the situation. All hospital areas not in use during the evenings, nights, weekends, or holidays should be locked, and security routinely checks these areas. But again, it is up to us at all times to ensure that we do our part by locking doors when we leave an area and do not block open doorways that should remain closed and locked.
Oh my God, I've lost my keys. I can't find it anywhere.
When's the last time you seen it?
The loss of hospital keys or your ID badge should be reported to security immediately. If an item has been lost or suspected to be lost by a patient, visitor, or staff, a lost and found report needs to be completed and given to security as soon as possible. If you find an item, also fill out this form and give the item and report to security. Do not keep the item in your department or area. This is a good way for an item to really become lost. Occasionally, we have patients that are celebrities or by nature of their injury or type of treatment are of interest to the media or other groups. These patients may present an issue of needing privacy or of safety for themselves or for staff. Special security measures may need to be implemented to help provide an environment of safety, privacy, and confidentiality.
Where were you in the staff department? Are you having chest pains?
Excuse me, folks, can you go home?
As soon as you become aware that a patient might warrant special security needs, you need to contact administration, nursing administration, and security. The patient's history will then be reviewed to see if security measures do in fact need to be implemented and at what level. If this situation occurs in your area, your supervisor will inform you of any special protocols or procedures.
Oh, admitting, this is Kim.
This is a call to let you know that I've placed a bomb in your hospital.
While bomb threats are rare, they still occur, and each one of us must be prepared for this potential threat. Anyone answering the telephone may be the recipient of such a call. The most important thing to remember is to stay calm. Try to keep the caller on the phone as long as possible. Ask them to repeat the message and record every word spoken by the person, if possible. Ask questions of the caller like possible detonation time or location of the bomb. If possible, inform co-workers that you have a bomb threat caller. Listen carefully to the caller for any distinguishing voice characteristics or other background sounds, such as music, traffic sounds, voices, and try to determine if the caller knows much about the physical layout of the hospital. As soon as the call is over, complete a bomb threat call form and immediately notify administration of the bomb threat. Administration will notify security and the local fire and police department for further action.